my sewing friends. This is Friday Sews. I'm Jen and this is my sewing room and it's Friday. So that means Friday Sews. Friday Sews is something that I created so that it would draw the sewing community on YouTube together. And we could talk about what we're doing, what we're going to be doing, a little bit of life, you know, and not just for creators, but for subscribers, for people who watch as well, so that in the comments we can talk about all kinds of things. So let me get to my sewing first. I've got a lot of catch-up projects that I've done this week, and one is another thing that's in progress. So let me start with the catch-up stuff. My wonderful friend Trish, whom I speak about ad nauseum, gave me 2 pieces of a top that she made. She happened to cut 2 of each piece, just 2 fronts and 2 backs. And so she said, I'm gonna give that to Jen. So she did. It's the cutest little top. Well, I had to find the binding for it. And I was gonna get something that was just, that would coordinate. And then I realized I had the fabric. So if that's not another indicator that she and I, you know, are of one mind, then I don't know what is. Well, I went ahead and made the top. It is adorable. It goes great with a pair of white short pedal pushers that I've got. And the armhole came up a little too high on me. I don't know why that is, but I have a feeling that it's because of the way I did the armhole, which was to do it like you do a neckband, so that it doesn't fold under where you only see the seam. I left part of the binding out so that you saw the binding. Well, it was just too tight. And I thought I need to take that binding off the armhole and cut it like a ½ an inch longer so that I have a little more room here. So that's what I did. And so this is on the table. I've got the binding all ready to go. So that's just something I took it apart, but I haven't done anything more with it because I was doing other things. I made Simplicity 6069, that's what I'm wearing. I made this a while ago. This is a pattern, it's vintage from 1978, and when I first made it back in 1978, I made this one. And the one I made looked just like this. Well, I always wanted to make this one, so I did. And it's this, like I say, that I'm wearing. Well, let me also say this is a top, and I thought it would be cut too short because in 1978, we were starting into the era of crop tops. So I cut it longer thinking I was gonna need it longer. And it ended up being long enough for a tunic, and because I had enough of this contrast left, I just put a border on the bottom and made it into a little dress. Well, that was great and everything, but I started wearing it and I thought, why didn't I put pockets on that? Why did I not do that? Like, I put pockets on everything because I don't carry a purse. My phone has my wallet on it and I only need that and my keys. So I finally put pockets on this. So that was a huge win. I thought, good, that's done. I'm not playing catch up with that. Knock that off the list. And then I have these cute, very cute pink pedal pushers that I picked up the last time I went thrifting with my girlfriends. And they fit great, except that, you know, as you wear something, it feels good when you put them on, when you try them on, but then you wear them. And what I found was I was constantly pulling them up, and I thought, well, that's not gonna do. So it took me about 20 minutes, but I hacked up the back and made the elastic shorter, made the waistband shorter. And if I did alterations professionally, I would be appalled at the way this looks. But I never wear anything tucked in to this kind of a waistband. And I knew that, and I thought, it's gonna be covered up and nobody will know but me. So that's one of those situations where I am putting my perfectionism to the side and saying, don't stress. I worked on Vogue 9357. This is a muslin. I'm making this view, and it looks just like this because I am using one of the sides of a comforter that I took apart and used the fabric. And I don't have any more of this fabric left. So I got it pretty much all the way done except for the neckline binding and the hem. Well, for one thing, I didn't have a zipper that was long enough. So I didn't have a long one in the right color. So I just used this fuchsia because I thought, oh, that might look cute. And it does. I love the contrast. So I got it on, zipped it up. I did get it zipped. Yay. That was about it. Oh my gosh, I couldn't breathe. It was so small. I thought, oh, but I got it zipped. So I went back in and I thought, I should not care about this. It's a muslin. I can just put it aside and go, well, that was a muslin and now I know to make these changes. I didn't want to do that because I like this. Even though this fabric's got some damage from where it was stitched to the other piece of fabric, you know, to make the comforter, I didn't care. I thought, you know what? I want to make this fit me. So I did. I took it apart. I took off the waistband and I took off the bodice. I still have the skirt here. I took the pockets off the skirt and I decided, you know what, this does not call for a lining, but I'm going to line it, and I'm going to line it in this fuchsia. So now this will match, and I cut the bodice, the lining, and then I went back in and I fortunately thought far enough ahead that I did not take the entire thing apart, because I am notorious for that. I will just get going with my seam ripper, and it's kind of like when you go to weed your garden and then 2 hours later you realize you're 3 houses down the street and you're weeding everybody's garden. Well, I get going like that, and this time I thought, well, before you do anything, go in and don't take out any of the serged edges, the serged seams, just make them smaller. And then take out the initial stitching, and that will save you a whole lot of time. Thank you, voice of reason in my head that made me do that. So there are 2 back darts, and I made them half the size that they were and about 1.5 inches shorter. I cut the side seams down to the very last little bit. I mean, I went right up next to that serging, because that makes it about a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, because when you serge your edges to finish them, you end up cutting off probably 1/8 of an inch with your serger blade. So I thought, well, I'll just get really close. It's not really a 1/4 inch seam allowance, it's a little bit bigger than that, but I thought, okay, that'll work. And then I took it out of the side front, that angular seam, and then on the center front, I didn't want to have to deal with this yoke, so I went ahead and see how little that seam allowance is? But I tapered it up so that it's the same size at the top, because I don't have any fabric to cut a new yoke. So I really think that's, I mean, I tried it on kind of, but it's just me, and I don't, you know, I can't pin it up the back. So I really think that's going to work. I also, on the sides, the side seams of the waistband, I took those down as far as I could also. And then probably the most important thing that I did was to mark on the pattern envelope all the changes I made. I know next time when I go to make this in better fabric, obviously, I'm going to cut a size bigger. Don't cut between 2 sizes, which normally is what I do. Cut a size bigger, take a 1/2 inch seam allowance, drop the neckline a little bit, which is, I did that. I just didn't like how high it came up, so I cut it down a little bit. Drop about 1/2 inch from the back neckline, so maybe the zipper will be long enough, even though it calls for the size zipper I had. That's basically it. I made those notations, and what I'll do is trace it off again and make just those couple of changes, so I won't have to deal with a whole lot of working with the pattern as I have it. Okay, so I have a list of things that I want to do. I actually wrote down, I usually fly by the seat of my pants, but this time I wrote down a list, because I thought, you've got these things in your head and you're gonna not remember, because you're gonna go, ooh, shiny, squirrel, you know, and I won't remember to get these things done. They'll always be, oh yeah, I wanted to do that, I wanted to do that. Well, you know what, I'm kind of on a roll with the catch-up thing. I need a new swimsuit and a new swim bag, because my swim bag is just a big tote bag and everything vanishes as soon as it gets to the bottom. So I need sections, and I'm going to adapt a pattern that I have from Andra at Andra Makes. That is just a tote. It's like a square tote that you can make, and it has pockets on the outside. It's great. and I'm going to make it longer and use all of those pockets so that I can find things when I get to the pool. And I have a need for a new suit as well. So I have a pattern. It's a Jali. It's a great, basically a racing swimsuit, or a lap swimsuit, which is what I do, although I haven't been doing laps that much lately. But I have all these pieces of Lycra that are going to be great for that. So I just need to make the suit, and they don't take very long. And I learned a lot last year when I made a suit about the elastic and methods to put it on. And so I have a lot more capability, knowledge, you know, I'm going to be better at it this time. I have packing cubes that all need to be redone. I love using packing cubes when I travel. If you don't, you should, because they make life so much easier. When you get somewhere, you don't end up with a suitcase full of clothing that you constantly have to keep folding and putting back in. You just use a packing cube, and then you only get out what you need. It's really nice. Well, the packing cubes I have were on Amazon, and they're great, but they have a binding that goes around them that shrank when I put them in the wash. And so I need to replace that binding, and I've done one of them. It doesn't take very long. I just need to do it. And the other thing that I really want to do is make a nightgown for my daughter who lives far away, but she's going to live closer. Which brings me to life. That's all the sewing. And life. I'm heading up today to help my oldest daughter and her husband move. They are moving from Florida up to Virginia. And that's a really good move for them because they came from Anchorage, Alaska, and they hate Florida with the passion of 1,000 suns. I mean, they are not happy here in Florida at all. So they're moving to Virginia where they'll be closer to the mountains, and they'll be able to go hiking and not deal with the humidity and the heat here. And the only bad thing is my daughter is taking that baby boy with her. The baby boy is not due until November, right around Thanksgiving. So baby boy isn't here yet, but he's not going to be close to me. I'm going to have to get on a plane and fly up there, and it's like 13 hours away by, you know, if you drive. So, well, the good thing though is that her sister who lives in Minneapolis is going to move down to where she's going to live. In fact, they're going to live together because her house is like, has an apartment downstairs. So that's going to be great. That's life. The question for this week is, what's your fashion style? Oh my gosh, how do I define my fashion style? It's a good question. I tend to be a little bit more tailored. I don't really go trendy very much. I kind of go with the general sense of a trend, but I really wear and pretty much make all my clothes now, but I make what I like. So maybe it is vintage 1990. Maybe it's Laura Ashley on some level. Maybe it's just, you know, like this. This could be really crazy if I mix patterns up, but it's not, because I tend to stay kind of, you know, I try to think outside the box, but I don't get really crazy with anything that I make. So I've been trying to do more of that with making some designer things like Marcy Tilton. She's really out of the box. And this Lynn Mazzone pattern too is a little bit out of the box. So I've tried to do a little more of that, but pretty much I stay pretty safe with my sewing. So that's my fashion style. What is your fashion style? Let me know in the comments. Let's chat about that, because I'm sure everybody is all over the board with, you know, the entire spectrum of fashion styles. So I'd love to know yours. So that'll do it for me this week for Friday Sews. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to check out all the Friday Sewers and join in on the conversation. You know, just hop around and see who you like. You might discover someone new. They're all pretty wonderful. If you would like to see an entire playlist of all of my Friday Sews, you can check right over here. And so I will see you next time, and I will leave you with my favorite quote from a song by Rich Mullins called Here in America. So much beauty around us, but just two eyes to see. And everywhere I go, I'm looking.